Hello and good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nasra Arta. I'm a 16-year-old junior at STEM. I've been living in Rochester for quite some time now. Coming from a big family, a house is essential. And to find a large house that could accommodate some people is very difficult here in Rochester. The first year I moved here, I told myself, how arduous can it be to find a 5-bedroom house? Lo and behold, it was very difficult. Most of the houses being built were either too small or too expensive. It has been 5 years since we started looking for a house, and we still haven't been able to find one. And it's not only my family that is facing this crisis in Rochester. Many people in this community have been forced to live in 2 separate apartments due to their big families, or worried of losing their Section 8 housing because of their new job that pays slightly higher than their old one housing. So this issue is addressed.
Hello everybody, Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you all. My name is Nimra Badri and I'm also a junior in high school. We have gathered here today to talk about some important issues concerning the welfare of the Rochester community. Nasra has made great points in the topic of culturally appropriate housing and the struggle many of our families face who are hardworking, especially larger families who cannot find accommodation in Rochester. My question to our City Council President is, how will you lead in partnership with us and the county to ensure that there is investment in culturally appropriate housing that accommodates all types of families that call Rochester home?
Thank you both so much. Okay, so tricky issue with the complexity of which I'm going to start out. Okay, very complex and tricky issue that requires all of us in the community to work together to address. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what the city's role is related to housing so you can understand. So we are able to evaluate different projects proposed to us to determine whether they could receive those sort of dollars to offset the cost, which then of course allow them to offset the cost of their project to lower rents for affordable housing. So that is one and probably the primary way that the city can influence affordable housing. But there are a number of other ways that we can and are starting to explore. And really, this is not something the city has worked super deeply on besides this tax approach. So other ways that we are looking at it are how we zone our communities. So what type of zoning in a certain area either prohibits or incentivizes or allows for certain types or densities of housing that people can potentially add more units to a certain property. Will go towards the Housing Coalition and other housing work that we collectively will have some guidance over how it will be used. And that's where more flexibility comes in around, and I know we're going to talk about this, around home ownership opportunities. So we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But so we are part of a collective community coalition that is looking at how we use our resources across the community to make sure we are supporting opportunities for affordable housing. We also have a really great neighborhood team at the city that is thinking about other creative strategies around accessible dwelling units, ADUs. Is it accessible? Accessory dwelling units, ADUs, so having a second housing structure on your lot that would allow for having potentially
weydiiyo ahayd muxuu ahaa markaan ka hadlayno guryaha qayb waa dhowr laba qayb baan u kala qaadnay midda laanshaha way noo dambeysaa nin ku xiga weydiin doon laakiin waxaan ka hadlayna waxay ahayd war guryada deeqa dhisa dawladdu waxay ku bixisaa inay canshuurta ka dhinto say muxuu ahaa ooga hadashay qeybaha ka mida degmada waxay samayn kartaa inay canshuurta ka yarayso si ay u yareeyaan kirada kow labo guryahay dhisayaan marka ayaga in lagala hadlo marka maadaama canshuurta ay ka yareynayaan dee guryada deeqa in la dhiso 4 qol iyo 5 qol ka badan in la heli karo oo 2 qol 3 qol ay kusoo koobneen marka waxaa laga hadlaya tahay muhiimadda in la helo guryada deeqayo oo noo qalmo ayadana ay tiri sidoo kale waxaan sameynaynaa haddaan nahay guryaha deegaanka hadda waan wadnaa barnaamijyo noocan ah kow inaan horta la dagaalno qiimaha kor u kacayo kirada taasoo ay macnaheeda dadka guryaha dhisaya inaan ka dhimayno canshuurta si arrintaa u sameeyaan labo inay la shaqeynayaan guddi ay sameeyeen ayaga iyo countiga iyo iskuulka si ay uga hadlaan arrimaha dhibaatada nagu haya bulshada reer Rochester si ay uga wada shaqeyn lahaayeen. Saddex, inuu jiro sidoo kale muxuu ahaa ninka kasoo buu kasoo baxaa wadwan asaga inuu ku jiro guddiga guryeenta. Marka way socotaa qorshihii socda marka si wax lagu darsan doonaa in taas inoo taalo ka hadli doona, laakiin muhiimadda inoo sheegayso waxay weeye in muxuu ahaa qaybteeda midda kale samayn karaan zoning waxaa la xaafadda maxaa lagu qaban karaa. Xaafadda waa ganacsi keliya, xaafadda waa guryaha waaweyn, xaafadda waa guryaha yaryar, taasna way qaban karaan. Mararka qaarkood marka inay bedelaan guri weyn in loo bedeli karo guryo yar laga dhigi karo si dadka ay u wada deeqaan loo helo. Marka runtii haddaan inta muxuu ahaa waa la wada fahmaan u malaynayaa. Hadda waxaan kusoo dhaweynayaa muxuu ahaa. So with that said, I hope you all understood.
I actually have one more really important thing to add, if you don't mind, before we dive into the next question. Is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so as I said, the city is starting to think creatively about how we move beyond these existing tools that we have. And one of the things that we're really excited about is the fact that we have a number of properties that the city actually owns around our community. So
leedahay waxay tiri hadda intaan u yeeri lahayn qolyaha guryaha dhisan mise muxuu ahaa shirkadaha waaweyn waxaan samayn karnaa dadkiina meeshaan fadhiyo community intaan soo imaano aan ka wada hadalno saamus intaan gadi lahayn balse u bedeli lahayn u isticmaalna wax wada anfacaya bulshada mise dantiina ka shaqeynay mise ha noqoto guryaha waaweyn aan ka hadlaysaan. Marka fikirkaan isweydaarsano taana runtii waan kiila inaan ku daray tiri taas bay noogu dartay. Marka insha Allah. And for now, I'd also like to welcome the next speaker, Mohammed Kodah, who will be talking about housing disparities. So again, we'll be talking more of housing. So please welcome Mohammed Kodah with me.
Hello everyone. My name is Mohammed Koder, and as we were talking about housing, so I would just like to add a few more things. The rate of people of color, Minnesota is ranked the bottom, and as they call it, the homeownership rate gap. Minnesota's homeownership gap rate is not great, basically. Let's say that. So the disparity between white homeownership rate and homeownership rate of people of color is widening. This trend has a big implications for this generation and generations to come. If it continues to trend downhill, know that wealth gap widens with age. In addition to the significant disparity in homeownership rate in Rochester, people of color who would like to rent face additional challenges such as high costs and limited places to rent. In addition to that, some of us face a discrimination when it comes to looking for a house that accommodates this big family. So we can all agree that everyone in Rochester and Minnesota deserves the security, safety of a home, no matter what race, religion, gender, and past history, and to live in a dignified life. Over the past several months, it has come to clear to the public that there is a significant push and pull between the city and the county, whose responsibility it is to address the needs of the people who are unhoused in Rochester. With the deepening of the housing that we would like to know, we would like to ask the council president, what would you do to address the disparity, and how would you work with the rest of the city councilors and the mayor to basically address both the homeownership gap rate and cost of rent that's keep going up and it's becoming unaffordable for many families like us. Thank you.
The Housing Coalition, again, of which the city is part, has identified the opportunity for home ownership, especially among our BIPOC or Black and Indigenous people of color in our community, as one of the top areas of focus. So this unprecedented investment from our county into housing, including the Housing Coalition, is a hopeful advance, I would say, related to a focus on home ownership across the community. It is absolutely no secret, and it's mortifying what the rates of home ownership for our Black residents compared to our white residents here in Rochester is. I mean, it's just atrocious. So yes, there are things we can do as a community. There are things we can do as a city, and it relates to housing, but it also relates to our communities of color within Rochester to be in space